The views and opinions expressed on the following program may not necessarily reflect the views of the staff, management, or board of Hope Media Group and KSBJ. It's what's happening around us, in our town, suburb, city, in our community. It's Community Beat with Kim Kasi McKee on 89.3 KSBJ.
Well, hello and welcome to Community Beat, where we're keeping you tuned in to the topics that are impacting our local communities and helping them thrive. I'm your host, Kim Kasi McKee, and today we're raising awareness for an organization that cares for children who are awaiting foster placement. It's called Isaiah 117 House. They provide the physical and emotional support in a safe and loving home for these children. And my guest is Christy Sevier. She is the location leader for Isaiah 117 House in Brazoria County. Welcome, Christy, and thanks so much for speaking with us today.
Hi, Kim. Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely. So, Christy, tell us, how did you become involved with Isaiah 117 House? I can remember when I first received some correspondence from you, maybe a year and a half or two ago. You were just so excited and just wanted everybody to know. I could tell from your persistence that you were excited.
I've been called persistent more than once in my life.
Well, aptly spoken. I've experienced it firsthand. It's true, but for such a worthy cause. So tell us about how you became involved.
Sure. So I actually became a foster parent in 2013. And the journey that I experienced as a foster parent, I think was God preparing me for what he had planned. And that experience as a foster parent really made me hungry to learn more and more about the foster care community and the plight of a child in foster care. And so I started to like every Facebook page I could find for any foster care ministry. I would read any article in any book I could find. And one day my church called and said, "Hey, we want to do a foster care event. And you're always sharing about foster care. Would you like to help?" And so I helped with the event, which has become a ministry for the last 6 years.
Wow.
And through building that ministry, we were able to identify some bigger needs that needed bigger solutions. And as God really laid that on my heart, and Mona Kabler has walked this journey with me from day one, Mona and I began to pray and to research. And we started looking at solutions, which would mean that we would have to build something from start. When just through my Facebook feed, Isaiah 117 House appeared. And I watched a video and I sent it to Mona and I said, "I don't think we have to start it from the beginning. This already exists."
Wow.
Yeah. And so we started our journey with Isaiah 117 House.
That is amazing. So, if you will, back up a little bit and talk about your journey to fostering.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. It's funny. I was a kid who always told my mom, "I'm never going to have kids. Why would I do that when there's kids who need homes?" And I have no idea where that came from.
Wow. Yes, you do know.
So fast forward into, I'm getting married as an adult. And before we get married, I tell my husband, I said, I want to adopt one day. Are you good with that? I just want to make sure we're okay on the same page here. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm good with that." Fast forward later into our marriage. At that point, we've got 2 kids, and we were just kind of thinking, maybe it's time. And I like to think I'm a fairly intelligent individual, but we tried to figure out what to do to become foster parents, and we couldn't figure it out.
Okay.
We were on the Department of Family Protective Services website and clicking around and reading and looking, and just couldn't figure out the next step. And so we would walk away from it and we would go back, and we were just frustrated, and we left the conversation at, God is just going to have to tell us when it's time. And so the seed was planted, it had taken root, we were ready, but God wasn't ready for us. And it's funny because 6 months later, the phone rang, and it was a member of my family. And there was a child who I'm related to that was in foster care. And I didn't really know that part of my family, but I was told, "You guys are the last phone call that we're able to make before we tell Child Protective Services there is no kinship placement possibility." And we knew that God had told us when it was time.
Wow.
Yes.
Whoa. Okay, Christy, I'm gonna have to pause a moment. That is a very moving story. You were the last call, but God had already been stirring that in your heart,
Mhm.
and it was someone in your own family.
Yes.
That is absolutely incredible. So when you talk about wanting solutions,
Mhm.
what was it that you saw? Because obviously, when you found out about Isaiah 117 house, you said, wow, this is something that's already in place.
Mhm.
But what got you and Mona to that point where you knew something needed to be done? What were you seeing
Sure.
that birthed that desire in your heart to do something more?
Sure. So we're seeing a lot of things. We were seeing children coming into care with nothing but a trash bag, with a few meager possessions. As the pandemic came on, we were starting to see kids come into care with nothing because they didn't want to bring potentially, a teddy bear that might have COVID on it, or
I see.
and so we were
Yeah.
seeing an already pretty big issue be exacerbated by the pandemic, and so we had kids
Okay.
coming into care. I received a phone call one Friday night about 11 o'clock from a caseworker who said, "We just received a teen girl into care. She has no possessions. She doesn't even have shoes on her feet. Can you guys come and help?" And so we were seeing kids coming into care in even more distress with no possessions at all.
Okay.
We were seeing the ability for Child Protective Services to find placement for children growing increasingly more difficult.
Okay.
And we had a growing population of children who could not be placed and were, at that point in time, basically living in Child Protective Services offices. Since there's been legislation passed that has moved children who cannot be placed into hotels. And so we were seeing that rapidly unfold and really become a bigger and bigger issue. And from my experience, even in being a foster parent, receiving a child into my home who had been sitting and waiting in a Child Protective Services office all day, and who came with unprepared, not having the things that he really needed to have dignity and to have some grasp of where he had come from, and to bring that forward with him. And so those were some of the things that we were seeing. And the solution that Isaiah 117 house brings to the table is that there's a home. There's a home so children don't have to sit and wait in a government office. We can greet them into a home and surround them with the love of Jesus and loving volunteers, and make that day look a lot different for everyone involved.
Wow, that is incredible. So you really were wanting to take these children from a cold, sterile, mechanical kind of experience, just kind of being herded through, to a place of love, as you said, and acceptance and warmth,
Yes.
family,
Yes.
which is absolutely beautiful. So what happened when you now you're on Facebook and you see that, wow, this is something that already exists. Then what? What did you do after that?
I connected with Mona, and I felt a lot of relief that I didn't have to start from ground zero, to be quite honest.
Sure.
Because the faster we could get the solution in place, the faster we could serve kids.
Yes.
And it wasn't about us needing to start something. It was
Sure.
about needing to have a solution and needing to have a service available. And so there was a lot of relief, and there was a lot of excitement that we could bring something that was already operating with excellence to our community. And so we reached out and we started the process, and have really enjoyed being a part of what God started in East Tennessee with one couple who had a similar foster care experience. They welcomed the child into their home and thought, how in the world is this what happens on removal day when a child is removed from one situation and brought into what we want to believe and think is safety. And it's just, the day just doesn't look like what we think it looks like. And so they started the first home, and they thought they were done. And they thought, we've had a small town miracle here in Elizabethton, Tennessee, to serve the children of Carter County, Tennessee. and that God had done beautiful, wonderful things. And then the next county over called and said, well, we have that problem. We need a house.
Wow.
And then the next county called, and a few counties called, and they kept saying, well, okay, we want to serve your kids too. Let's do this. And then what we actually saw on Facebook was a video done by Mike Rowe, who did the show Dirty Jobs. He had a Facebook show called Returning the Favor, where he spotlighted small charities doing big work.
Wow.
And so he decided to interview Rhonda Paulson, who's the founder of Isaiah 117 House. And that was the video that we saw on Facebook. Was
amazing.
The interview. Yes. And so that episode of Returning the Favor aired right as the world shut down for COVID.
Wow.
And so if you can remember, everyone was trapped inside, rethinking their lives, thinking, I should be making a bigger impact. I should really, chase those dreams I've always had. And so millions of people were watching Facebook and scrolling. And so after that, I believe every state in the entire nation reached out to Isaiah 117 House and said, we have that problem and we need the solution.
That is absolutely incredible. I was blown away when I recognized, because I know here in our area, there's Brazoria County.
Yes.
With one, and then Fort Bend, Montgomery, Walker. But I did not realize that this was across 50 states.
So we are in 11 states so far.
Okay.
The process is very slow and methodical intentionally. When they got that response, they were not ready for that response.
Okay.
That they got after Mike Rowe's video or episode aired. And so they sat down and re-engineered and said, how did we get to the first house? What did we do? What was that process? And that is the process that the Lord blessed for the first home. And they put that same process in place for every single new community that comes forward and says, we need a home here. They follow that exact process. It is slow. It is prayerful. It is intentional. It is a process of making sure that both are right for each other.
Okay.
And so they don't rush into anything. Isaiah 117 House has never gone into a community and said, let us bring a home here. It's always been a member of the community coming to them saying, can we bring this resource to our community?
They go upon invitation.
Yes. Yes.
That's awesome, because it's already built-in buy-in.
Yes.
Someone is saying, come. They've recognized a need, and they're going to do something to help to facilitate that process.
Absolutely.
Wow. I think that's when I mentioned the 50 states, I think what I had read was that their staff consists of over 100 program coordinators and on-call assistants across 50 plus locations.
Yes.
And 11 states.
Yes. Fort Bend County, they kicked off their initial community meeting announcing to the community, we are doing this in Fort Bend County about a week ago. And they were home number 50. And home number 51 also kicked off that day in Tennessee. So we're right at 51 homes that are either in the beginning phases of raising awareness, have moved into construction, or have open homes that are serving children.
Beautiful. If you're just tuning in, we are speaking with Christy Sevier. She is the location leader for Isaiah 117 House in Brazoria County. So, Christy, Isaiah 117, why is that a significant part of the name?
The verse Isaiah chapter 1 verse 17, which people do ask, is it 11:7? Is it 117? It is chapter 1 verse 17, which the Lord is telling us to defend the cause of the orphan and the widow, and so it is a very appropriate name for us because we are definitely having the passion to defend the cause of the orphan.
That's awesome. So your location in Brazoria County, is that the first location in our area?
In the Houston area, yes. It's Montgomery, Walker County, and Brazoria County. We started at the same time. Within 24 hours of each other, we had our community kickoff meetings, and our journeys have looked so different.
Okay.
But it's almost comical that we have stayed on par. We're walking with each other, lockfoot, up until this point, both about to start construction now, even though it could not have looked more different for both of our communities. So we are we are close to each other, both about to start construction. Fort Bend just started. But in Texas, we have an open home in Dallas County. We are about to have an open home in McLennan County, which is the Waco area. And then we also have homes that are raising awareness in Williamson County and Henderson County. So we're at 7 homes in Texas.
Wow, that is impressive. So what are some of the things that happen in a typical home? Kind of what would that look like when you open up?
Sure. So first, I'll tell you what it looks like today.
Okay.
So today, let's just say a 7-year-old little girl goes to school. And at some point in that day, she gets called to the principal's office. And what does she feel? I must be in trouble. Going to the principal's office. And there is a stranger she's never met before, likely, in the principal's office who tells her, "You're not going to ride the bus home today. You're going to come with me." And she gets in a car with that stranger and goes to a government office that is sterile and is cold and is for caseworkers doing work. It is doesn't have the comforts of a home. And there's fluorescent lights in cubicles and conference rooms and copy machines going off and phones ringing. And here sits a 7-year-old little girl with no possessions from her home, has her backpack from school, probably thinking she's in trouble, while a caseworker frantically tries to figure out what's next, does paperwork, makes phone calls. And sometimes that looks like a removal in the middle of the night. Sometimes that looks like a child who's not even clothed properly, may have a head full of lice, may desperately need a bath, may be hungry, maybe hasn't been fed and nourished properly. And so that today is what things look like in our area and just in general in our country.
When a child has been identified as someone that needs to go into foster care.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And so we believe that there is a better way. And so the question that we ask our communities is, what if there was a home? Because if there was a home, we can't change the fact that children sometimes get abused and neglected. And so what we can do is when that 7-year-old little girl goes to the principal's office, that caseworker can put her in the car and drive her to a white house with black shutters and a red door, where someone is going to greet her and say, "I'm so glad you're here. What would you like to do?" And whatever she would like to do is what we're going to do. If she'd like to make cookies in the kitchen, we'll make cookies in the kitchen. If she wants to go in the backyard and play, we'll go in the backyard and play. If she needs a bath, we can draw her a bubble bath with rubber duckies and have a big warm fluffy towel waiting for her when she gets out. We are home, so we can do the things that happen in a home. And we've got an office where the caseworker can go and do that paperwork and make those hard phone calls and have privacy and maybe just a minute to call their own family and say, "Won't be home for dinner tonight. I'm going to miss your basketball game again, son. I'm so sorry." And so for the child, it is a much better solution. And our goal is always to reduce trauma for the children who are entering foster care. For the caseworker, we want to lighten their load and just make sure that they know that they are loved and they are appreciated, and to make their job just a little bit easier in any way that we can. And then when the foster family or the next step for that child is determined, maybe a grandma or an aunt or an uncle says yes to that phone call, and they're happy to say yes, but they don't have a bed. We can provide that bed so that they can say yes. If they need a car seat, if they need something to put in the oven for dinner that night because they're just overwhelmed, whatever it is to ease that transition, we're happy to provide that as well.
That is incredible. If you're just tuning in, we are speaking with Christy Sevier. She's the location leader for Isaiah 117 House in Brazoria County. This is a place that provides a home for children who are awaiting foster placement. And so, Christy, how has the community supported what you're doing, and what is it that you need to continue to move forward in this very worthy cause?
That is a great question. I have never loved my community more. The community, I truly believe that people want to help and serve in the foster care realm. But they often just don't know how.
That's right.
And so when we tell them this is how you can help, boy, they step up.
Oh,
They
that's
really step
awesome.
up. In Brazoria County, we have a host of contractors and tradesmen who have come to the table to build our home.
Wow.
We have volunteers who have said we're ready, and they're out helping us spread awareness currently in the community. They're doing things like posting lemonade stands in their communities to get the word out,
Nice.
doing donation drives so that we can be ready to serve kids, and just helping us do things like write thank you notes, or there's so many ways to help. And so our community has just overwhelmed me, and the Lord continues to tell me, you just need to tell people, and I'm going to handle the rest. And
Mm.
so we share, and he brings all of the pieces together and all of the people together, and he stirs their hearts. And so we continue to need people to come alongside us to serve. I have always told people, tell me any gift the Lord has given you, and I will help you put it to work in the foster care community. And so far, no one has stumped me. So I would challenge anyone listening, whether you make quilts or build houses or dig ditches or whatever you do, the Lord gave you that gift. And then he also told us to serve and defend the cause of the orphan. And so I believe those two things go hand in hand. And so we have people who are serving the foster care community with their gifts of organization, with their gifts of knowing how to do plumbing and electrical and wiring, and putting a roof on a house. We have people who are serving by sewing and baking and cooking. And we have one volunteer who says, I can't do anything except for call our local councilmen and tell them that they should make this easier for you guys. And
Hey, let's do it. That would be a big favor.
and so truly everyone has a way to contribute. And so we have all of the different ways to serve. When our house is open, we will have 40 to 60 trained volunteers. And those are the people who will open the red door when a caseworker brings a child and bend down and say, I am so glad you're here. And we'll serve the kids.
Oh, that's awesome. So what is your projected time frame? When are you planning to open?
Oh, our general contractors love that question. We, in Brazoria County, we are finalizing our permitting, and
Okay.
we believe we'll start construction in February. And depending on weather and so many factors, we expect about 6 to 9 months of construction. And during that time, we hope to start serving children who are waiting at the Child Protective Service offices, because that does happen regularly. We've served a child this week sitting at a Child Protective Service office. If we can't welcome them into our home, we at least want to show up to the office and make sure that they have clothing, that they have toys, they have a soft blanket, and provide a dinner or lunch or whatever meal may be coming for them and for the caseworkers. And so the timeline for us is to start serving children in the short term. And then once our home is open, to start serving children in the house. But it definitely, an army of volunteers is needed. Everyone from people who will mow the grass and plant flowers in the front yard to who will serve kids. We'll have tons of volunteers who even say, serving a child who's been abused I can't do that.
Sure.
And we get it.
Right.
But they can write thank you cards, and they can mow the grass, and they can do laundry, and they can help us keep bathrooms clean. And so we need tons of volunteers. And so that's about our timeline. We will be starting construction soon, and hopefully in about 9 months, we'll have a home that's ready to open. And Montgomery County is tracking similar to us. So for those who are on the south side of Houston or the north side of Houston, we'll have opportunities to have an open home and to serve there, hopefully this year. But there are opportunities even now during construction. And those who are maybe towards the west side of town in Fort Bend, they are starting to recruit volunteers. And all of us do things like go every single month to the Child Protective Service offices in our counties. And we take treats and notes of appreciation and just really make sure that the caseworkers know we see you. and we love you and we're praying for you and we're rooting for you. And so when they used to walk into a sterile break room, now they walk in and there's hearts hanging from the ceiling and candy on the tables. And they walk in and go, oh, we know who's been here.
Wow, 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 wow.
So come and serve with us.
Beautiful, Christy. My husband for several years worked for Child Protective Services.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just imagining the difference that a ministry like this will make. Because I would hear the stories when he would come home, the ones that I could listen to,
right.
But to know that there is a ministry that's not only serving the children, but this is for the whole team.
Yes.
This is talking about taking one for the home team, rooting for the home team. You guys to be there to serve like this is just so beautiful. And what I hear you saying is that you're not waiting until the house is built. Mm-hmm. You're already helping.
Yes.
You're already going into these offices, building relationships, building that bridge so that they will know that that helping hand is right there to serve. And all they'll need to do then is partner with you to bring the children. And speaking of, what will be the age groups that can be a part of the home?
So children in foster care, it might be a baby straight from the hospital.
Sure.
All the way up to a 17-year-old teenager. Sibling groups, individual children, all ages. And so we are happy to serve kids of all ages, kids who have had their first initial removal and it's their first time entering foster care is certainly what we were founded to do. We know also that through the foster care journey, sometimes a child is in a placement and that can quickly disrupt and a change is needed. And sometimes those children come back into the office because they're needing the next placement. And so we'll welcome those children into our homes. Sometimes it looks like a teenager who's in foster care that maybe spent some time in juvenile detention and just got released and they're trying to figure out the next step. And we'll welcome that child into our home as well.
Awesome. So tell us, Christy, where does a person need to go that would like to connect with what you're doing in Brazoria County, or they may want to connect with the Isaiah 117 house that's closest to them.
Sure.
But let's start by finding out how can they follow along with what's happening in Brazoria County to either help or to get more information. Tell us that information.
Sure. The Isaiah 117 house website is the perfect place to go. It will give you the information on any home that you are closest to. And if you wanted to share that information, even if you have family in another state where there's an Isaiah house, that's the right place to send them. And that is Isaiah117house.com. The number's 117. And that's the perfect place to go. For social media, you can find the Brazoria County House at Isaiah 117 House Brazoria TX. Similar for Fort Bend, Isaiah Fort Bend TX, and Montgomery Walker TX as well, Isaiah 117 House Montgomery Walker TX. So come and find us on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram. You can find links to all of those social media pages as well from the main website, Isaiah117house.com. And we would love for people to follow along with us and share our stories. One of the things that we do, because we are a network of multiple homes, the homes that are open and serving children share what we call Why Wednesday stories. So every Wednesday across all of our social media channels, you will see stories from open homes of children being served and what that looks like for the volunteers, for the caseworkers, for the kids. And we are very careful to not overshare or share anything confidential. But even in being very sensitive to those things, we can share and give people an idea of what's happening inside the homes. And it's very impactful. And we get a lot of feedback from sharing those stories.
Excellent.
One of the things I would love to say is that kids in foster care are just kids. They're just kids who are in foster care due to no fault of their own. And that if the Lord has stirred your heart about becoming a foster parent, really seek that out and do the research and talk to a foster care licensing agency and just see if that's truly what the Lord has planned for you. And I just would encourage everyone to know that kids in foster care are just sweet, innocent kids who've had really, really hard experiences. And so if you feel the Lord has called you there, I would just encourage you to be brave and to take that next step. And the other thing I wanted to say is that so often, and your husband probably experienced this, caseworkers, they get a bad rap. They've got a hard job.
Yes.
They're always made out to be the bad guy. And I would just be remiss if I didn't take a minute to say some of the most amazing people that I know are on the front lines working for Child Protective Services and Child Protective Investigations.
That's right.
And they are people of faith, and they are people who love kids and who love the Lord. And they are constantly in the darkest of places. And they need your prayers, and they need you when the community is saying that they're the bad guys. They need you to stand up and say, these are our frontline warriors, and we need to stand with them and be praying for them. So,
wow, Christy. Well, thank you so much for what you're doing and for the way you've just allowed the calling and the passion that God has placed in your heart to lead to powerful movement in your community. It's really beautiful. And I just want to encourage you to, as Christy has said, if you want to learn more, if you feel God is tugging at your heart in any way, go to the website, which is Isaiah117house.com. Come alongside this powerful ministry in the Brazoria County area, or the Montgomery County, or Walker County, or Fort Bend County area, to be a part of the lives of these children and all of those who are associated with their care. So again, Christy, thank you so much for joining us today.
thank you for having me.
And thank you to our wonderful audience for joining us today. And we hope you'll tune in again next week for another edition of Community Beat. I'm Kim Kasi McKee on 89.3 KSBJ.
Thanks for joining us for Community Beat with Kim Kasi McKee. Join us every Saturday morning at 5:30 on 89.3 KSBJ.